A deadly workplace shooting in Roanoke.
We all hit and did everything we're supposed to do.
As we learn new information, we are hearing from both workers and their loved ones.
You never expect for it to happen in your own hometown.
Tonight, your hometown station brings you team coverage in a special edition of WDBJ7 at 6. Good evening, everyone. I'm Chris Hurst. A violent morning before sunrise here at Freightcar America in Roanoke. And as the sun begins to set, we are realizing the totality of what happened here at this workplace shooting. The man who did it is Getachew Fakede. He's from Kenya, in his 50s, and came here to Virginia about 5 years ago. He was working here at Freightcar America until about March, when he stopped showing up for work. And that's when he came into today, the paint room here at Freightcar America, shot 4 people, killing 1, wounding 3 others before killing himself. Senior reporter Joe DeGille has been here all day today. Joe, you've been trying to learn exactly how this all happened.
Well, Chris, this all unfolded shortly after 6 o'clock this morning. We're told the shooter arrived here on a bicycle. How he got past the perimeter, investigators are still working to determine. But he opened fire in the paint shop, firing 10 rounds from a 9mm semi-automatic handgun.
Police officers arrived a couple of minutes after the call and quickly secured the scene so medical first responders could tend to the wounded. Though 2 were dead and 3 injured, police say the emergency plan that was in place, updated with the help of Roanoke police just 6 months ago, made all the difference today.
We understand from some of the employees who did evacuate that they used the newly established protocol that had been updated, and the local administrative staff believes that had that not taken place, today's incident could have been much more serious.
A large group of employees gathered outside one of the buildings, and they stayed there while police officers continued to search the property to make sure there were no other hazards. Around 10:30, more than 4 hours after the shooting, police gave the all clear and the employees were allowed to leave.
Of the 3 people who were taken to the hospital, 1 was grazed by a bullet and has been released. The other 2, we're told, are in serious condition. And Chris, I imagine there are many others tonight who are still shaken by what happened here this morning.
And those wounds might take a lot longer to heal. Joe, thank you very much for your work today. It is those friends, the family members, and the co-workers of those impacted here at this shooting that we are thinking about tonight. And WDBJ7's Justin Ward has been talking with those people all day today. He's now in the employee parking lot of Freightcar America on the other side of this location where I am. Justin, what have they been sharing with you?
Chris, well, they have told me that they are very emotional and understandably shaken. We spoke to one person who works inside. He took cover when the shooting happened.
Very, very thankful. It could have been me.
Michael Ewing didn't hear the gunshots, but he heard the after effect.
They went over to the PA to our active shooter to go hide.
Ewing and his co-workers around him looked for shelter. He was just a minute's walk inside the plant from where everything happened. DJ Alexander was at home when he heard the news.
And I have a son that works at Freightcar, so I'm just out here to support because I like to see him. I'm a family man, that's my son.
Alexander's son was inside when the shooting happened. He rushed to the plant to make sure his son was okay.
He said they got everything in his area that he was in corned off, and that he was okay, and that kind of made my heart slow down a little bit.
Now, police questioned many of the employees as they were walking to the car, and as they were walking to their cars, they had their arms around each other, just offering some kind of peace today. Chris, they told me today that they would like to forget, really.
Yeah, a day that is going to be very difficult to forget, not just for law enforcement and the people who work here, but all of the people here of the Roanoke Valley for this workplace shooting. Now let's talk a little bit more about what we do know about the man who perpetrated this incident. He came to Roanoke 5 years ago from Kenya, and we understand from police that he came here in a refugee relocation program, something that a lot of people who live here in Roanoke have taken advantage of. There are many refugees who live here in this city. There was a lot of police activity in southwest Roanoke at an apartment where the shooter was said to have lived. That's where Caitlin Francis has been. Caitlin, what more can you tell us?
Hey there, Chris. Yeah, I spoke with a woman who lives at apartment number 6 at Brandon Manor Apartments. Now, that's right next door to where Fideke was living. Now, she says she was absolutely shocked to learn when she got home that that man was involved in this morning's shooting. Elizabeth Bartleson says she's known Ketachu Fakede for about 5 years. She says he moved here from another country, Africa. Police did confirm he is a 53-year-old Kenyan native, and Bartleson says her neighbor was a nice guy who had worked at Freightcar America, but she told me he talked to her about problems he was having there.
When he quit his job, he was telling me and my boyfriend that passed away that there was workers down there that was giving him a hard time. And he's been telling his supervisor about it, and his supervisors didn't want to do nothing about it. And I guess it just took a toll to him, and he did what he did.
Bartleson says she and that man who lived right next door to her were best friends. She says she didn't think he would ever do something like this. Now, before I spoke with Bartleson, investigators were actually there at Brandon Manor Apartments. They were conducting a search warrant there, Chris.
All right, Caitlin, thank you very much for that. Hearing from that neighbor, we hear this so often when these incidents happen. People say, I never thought this person could do something like this, and this person just snapped, it seemed. There is more that we can do to maybe prevent these things from happening in the first place. There is a new growing profession called threat assessment. I spoke with a threat assessment consultant named Patrick Prince, who told me this afternoon that very rarely do people just snap.
What is relevant behavior? What do we report? We often get really hung up on, did the person make a threat? And in fact, when we go back and look, most folks don't make a threat, but all of them acted in threatening ways. So number one, we need to create programs.
It was a busy day for all of the officers on the scene responding to this very active threat, what became an active threat with this active shooter response. It is something that they prepare for. They have to train for it now and train for it often. WDBJ7's Eamon O'Mara has been in the New River Valley talking to one college professor who, Eamon, he is well versed in this concept of active shooter training.
That's right, Chris. Todd Burke is a former Maryland police officer and now trains students on many things, including active shooter scenes. He says it's imperative that every officer go through live shooter training before having to deal with something like this morning. It can be nearly impossible to perfectly train for a situation like what happened at Freightcar America Tuesday morning, but officers still try. The training has changed from what officers were previously taught.
What officers used to do is just set up a parameter and wait and make sure all is okay. Now what you do is you go in, again, with the assumption of trying to neutralize the shooter and also minimizing danger, and at the same time hoping that, for officer safety reasons, there's not an ambush situation.
Burke says officers will go into common places like office buildings or schools, like the Danville police did just one day before this shooting. That helps prep for the situation, but officers likely never trained for Tuesday's location.
You can't train in every single place and go into every single business, but the idea is the practice. The idea is to get the officers comfortable with what they're doing.
Burke also tells me many times officers are just sweeping the building after an incident because more than 60% of workplace shootings are over before officers arrive. But Burke also studied and published work on the psychology behind workplace violence. Chris, he tells me the violence is very common, but shootings like this morning's are extremely rare.
They are rare. That is important to note, Eamon. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says about 500 people die in workplace homicides every single year. And one more quick point about what you were saying, the sweeps that police do after this. It's a grid search, but trying to do a facility like this, an industrial mechanical facility like this, Gene, something very difficult for officers to do. But they were able to complete that around midday today, and now they are being debriefed and trying to also cope with their trauma having to go through this. And so as the physical wounds begin to heal and the workplace begins to try to restore some semblance of normalcy, it is the healing that has just barely begun.
It will certainly take a long time, days, weeks, months, and those folks will be changed forever by what happened there, Chris. Thank you.
Yes, they will.
Your hometown station is your one source for new information about the deadly shooting at Freightcar America. You can also download the WDBJ7 News app for updates straight to your phone. Tonight, your hometown station is following another major story. Next at 6, we hear from a friend of the man found dead in Amherst County early this morning. Another big story we are following today, a shooting death in Amherst County. WDBJ7's Tim Saunders is live in Madison Heights, where deputies found a man dead this morning. Tim, the man who died worked at that location.
He was a barber, Gene. Friends say that Troy Robertson cut hair here at Duval's Barbershop in Madison Heights. It was right outside the door of that business that deputies found Robertson lying this morning dead with a gunshot wound. For most of the morning Tuesday, yellow tape and sheriff's deputies surrounded a small shopping center at the corner of Maple Drive and Old Wright Shop Road.
To wake up this morning and to see this, it's shocking.
Kim Brinkley lives and works across the street from the crime scene where deputies found Troy Robertson shot to death around 3 Tuesday morning.
Troy was like a son to me. He was quiet, humble. He didn't bother anybody.
Deputies tell WDBJ7 they aren't sure who shot Robertson or what motivated the killing.
You can see some cases laying on the ground here, so we know it was definitely a gunshot. But as far as why, what reason, whatever, no.
Loved ones gathered and cried Tuesday near the spot where Robertson died.
He loved his children, he loved his family, and he would help anybody. For everybody who knew him, he's going to be missed. He was a good guy.
Robertson was 41 years old, and I talked briefly with his wife this afternoon. She told me that her husband had a birthday coming up a week from Sunday. Gene, the sheriff tells me that they need help from the public to solve this case. If you know anything, call the Amherst County Sheriff's Office.
All right, Tim Saunders, thank you very much. New details tonight about a shooting at a Roanoke bar that killed 1 person and hurt 10. Jermaine Brown is now a free man. He was charged with second-degree murder and malicious wounding in the September shooting. Today, prosecutors said they don't have enough evidence to go forward. Witnesses are cooperating, but prosecutors say they would like to hear from more people. Following a 2-day retreat, Danville City Council is focusing on 3 areas. That includes decreasing violent crime, improving education, and creating economic growth. City Manager Ken Larking says they will also focus on youth and opportunities for students. Larking says they're working to address both long and short-term needs. Hear more from him tonight on WDBJ7 at 11. Well, get ready for a chilly evening. A lot of areas will be in the 30s.
Some were this morning, Gene, and that included the New River Valley, also going towards Danville. It got kind of chilly this morning. Lynchburg and Roanoke not quite there with readings in the 40s. Notice our daytime highs were pretty comfortable today in the mid to the upper 60s. We'll see what the rest of the week holds for you coming up in your WDBJ7 forecast. Let's see if we have all the elements for a cold night. We'll use Buena Vista as an example. Currently it's 56 degrees, which is pretty comfortable, not too bad. But the dew point temperature is only 35 degrees. This is the point where the moisture in the air would be completely saturated, and it also gives us an idea of how cold it can get tonight, assuming no changes in the overall pattern. So with the relative humidity very low, dew point temperatures very low, this gives us a pretty good idea that at Enderley Heights Elementary anyway, they're going to at least be dropping in the upper 30s, if not the mid 30s this evening. Current temperatures are at 60 in Lexington, 60 in Covington, Clifton Forge, 62 in Wytheville, and 60 in Galax. Boy, everybody's just about at the same place. So if the air is kind of calm tonight, which we think it will be, that's why we're going to drop down and be pretty chilly. Continuing our coverage from the Martinsville Speedway for this week for campers and other folks that are going over toward the Speedway in advance of Friday's qualifying and races on Saturday and Sunday. We find that it's going to be pretty chilly first thing tomorrow morning. Otherwise, it seems like late October is being pretty kind to us. A chance for some showers on Thursday, and that'll be in association with the developing front that'll be moving through. But right now, you can see the impact of this high pressure area just driving the winds down from the north, and that's why it's so dry, and that's why it's going to be relatively cool. The chilliest of the air has already arrived into southwest Virginia. You can see it in the mountains there and lifting up. So that's our setup for this evening. Obviously, no chance for any moisture today or tomorrow. But when this warm front gets a little bit closer on Thursday, a chance for some rain will be on the way. Shouldn't last all day, and it shouldn't have a huge impact. Here's what we think will happen for tonight. We've got mostly clear skies with some patchy frost. The readings will be in the mid 30s in the outlying areas to right at the upper 30s in most of the metro locations. conditions. And then the hour by hour just streaks a little cloudiness our way, but that's about all. It's all fair weather clouds. Much of your midweek is going to be very, very pleasant indeed, as the daytime high temperatures will work their way up into the lower to mid 60s in a lot of communities. 63, for example, in Danville, 62 in Martinsville, 60 degrees in Roanoke, and right around 58 degrees in Lexington. Let's plan for the next 7 days. Again, Thursday is your chance for some showers. Much of that will be early in the day. And then on Friday, we're back in the sunshine. Morning lows in the upper 40s, highs in the mid to upper 60s. Let's take a look at Saturday and Sunday. Not a bad weekend shaping up there. Halloween right now looks like it's going to be partly cloudy with mid 60s. And Tuesday, we're partly cloudy as well. Pretty typical late October, early November weather on the schedule.
We'll check the Big South's preseason basketball poll tonight. Plus, Woody Barron has played like royalty for the Hokies on the defensive line this season. We'll hear from the senior tackle in sports.
Sports from your hometown station, WDBJ7.
The Big South held its men's and women's basketball media day today in Charlotte, where the Radford women were tabbed to finish second in the league, while the Liberty ladies were picked fourth in the preseason poll. On the men's side, Richie McKay's Liberty Flames were picked to finish second behind Winthrop. It's the highest preseason ranking for the Flames since the 2003-2004 season. Radford was picked to finish sixth in the 10-team league. Coach Mike Jones will have just one senior on his roster this season. The Virginia Tech football team leaves for Pittsburgh tomorrow, and someone had best make sure that defensive tackle Woody Barron is on the plane. The senior from Nashville dominated against Miami, recording 4.5 tackles for loss, including 3 sacks. Barron is a quiet leader for the Hokies. He doesn't say a whole lot, but his game is doing plenty of talking right now. He's clearly saved his best for his last season.
He's obviously talented, but he's an intelligent football player. I mean, he understands things. He is not the most vocal guy, but you know, he brings it every single day. He's an incredibly nice young man. You know, I mean, whether he's hanging out with kids after practice or just a pleasure to be around.
He's playing as well as any defensive lineman we've had here in my tenure as a coordinator. Just very active, very physical at the point of attack.
You know, I think it was us on defense knowing that we were shorthanded and that we had to have a great game defensively. I was just the recipient of a couple plays. Lucky I was fortunate to get in on them, but it really could have been any of us.
Barron isn't the only one having an impact for his team. At Liberty, tailback Todd Macon has provided a much-needed shot in the arm for the Flames' running attack. Since returning from an ankle injury earlier this month, Macon has scored 7 touchdowns and was named this week's Big South Offensive Player of the Week following a breakout performance against Monmouth.
He's done a great job. Very good running back. He runs with great determination, has good vision, and knows how to run over people, knows how to make people miss. And so it's great to have him healthy. And again, our offensive line, I think you got to really give a whole lot of credit to them. Obviously, Todd Macon is definitely has helped us. He's made some great runs, and our other backs have too.
All right, Liberty going to host Gardner-Webb Saturday at 3:30.
Coming up soon. All right, thanks, Travis. Well, a negative day on Wall Street today. The Dow fell 54 points. NASDAQ lost 26, and the S&P dropped 8.
Back now live outside Freightcar America in downtown Roanoke, where there are still many unanswered questions that we are trying to track down for you at this hour. We still are having some difficulty trying to answer some questions about this murder-suicide that happened. We can't share with you yet the names of the 4 people who were shot or their stories yet. And we also are trying to learn more about how this happened. And we have reporters chasing down leads right now at this time. Of course, we will update you on anything else that we learn on WDBJ7.com and also tonight on WDBJ7 at 11. Gene, at last check, 2 of the 3 people shot who survived remain in serious condition at the hospital.
And that 3rd victim was released from the hospital this afternoon. Chris Hurst and our entire crew out there, we appreciate the coverage tonight, and we will see you all at 11. Tough situation there, and as Chris said, a lot of unanswered questions. Police have not released the names of the victims yet. A lot of the family is out of state. We will bring you the latest online and on air right here. Robin, you were tracking a chilly evening ahead, yes?
Find a coat, find a
coat.
sweater. Don't go out the door tomorrow morning and be unsuspecting. Temperatures are only going to be in the 30s. And then in our 7-day planner, we just settle in. No biggie here. Just kind of get a few showers tossed our way Thursday, but otherwise kind of a fall foliage kind of a weekend with partly sunny skies and readings in the 60s.
The leaves are really starting to change in
Finally,
these cool
yeah.
nights. Okay, thanks, Robin, and thank you for choosing WDBJ7 and making us the region's most watched newscast. Good night.